Hello and welcome to the Modern Musclehead Podcast. This is Scott Tousignant of MetabolicMasterpiece.com along with Bryan Krahn. Maybe he's over there. BryanKrahn.com. Today we're going to be talking about flexible dieting and mainly kind of focusing on Sohee Lee. Just wrote an article about how her prep leading up to her contest, where it was a 10-week cutting phase, and during that prep she included a Snickers bar every single day, kind of proving a point that you can still treat yourself. You don't have to be perfect even while you're getting ready for a show. So it sets a good example for a lot of people out there, even if you're not cutting for a show, just weight loss in general. Bryan, we're going to be talking about this, giving our general thoughts, not just on the article, but this whole concept in general. Because, I mean, Sohee's just one among many people out there kind of done a very similar thing. I mean, initially we had the Twinkie guy who ate nothing but Hostess products and lost weight. We've had recently the science teacher who ate nothing but McDonald's for 6 months, and I think he lost close to 60 pounds. And what that guy did was actually, it was a kind of school project where he had his students try to make sure that he was still eating healthy, getting all the nutrients that he was supposed to, but while eating McDonald's. So we're trying to convey this message that you don't have to be perfect while following a diet plan, while you're trying to cut, burn fat, lose weight. This conversation came up in the Physique Artist Nation, one of my closed groups there. So I was glad it came up, and it really sparked an interesting discussion in there. So I thought it'd be a good opportunity for Bryan and I to share our insights on this really well detailed and documented article there. What were your initial thoughts from Sohee's article?
Yeah, like when I first saw it, I was kind of like, when I just saw the headline and glanced at it, I thought, oh no, another one of these. Because yeah, like you say, it's been done a few times, and kind of, I don't want to say it's been done to death, but it's been done a lot. But I really liked it because she framed everything really, really well, and she just presented what's important to get lean, and like it was just really well drafted. And as a writer, I thought it was awesome. I mean, again, a lot of people kind of get caught up in the whole one Snickers bar a day thing. Like, she's not saying, you have to eat junk or you have to have a Snickers bar a day. She's just trying to prove a point that, you can have, quite a bit of, junk in your diet and still get in great shape. I mean, she looks awesome when it's
Yeah.
done.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I mean, she's already starting off lean.
Yeah, yeah, that's
She's a
true.
small girl, and which is another great thing. I think that's a great example in itself that she's able to stay lean for the most part. When it comes to contest prep, she only has to drop 5 pounds to get
Yeah.
on stage. And she won her height class. I think there's a lot to say about that, and lifestyle in general. The flexible dieting
Mhm.
lifestyle allows her to stay relatively lean all the time. And then she even took her time, like 5 pounds. She still spread it out over 10
Yeah.
weeks. So it was pretty cool to see that.
Yeah, she did start out in certainly much, much better shape than the average person. I mean, wasn't a lot of fat on her to begin with. So, that kind of can, that's why she only lost 5 pounds.
Hmm.
But yeah, like, but certainly I think if she had she started really kind of heavy, sounds bad, but had she started kind of heavy, she would have lost a lot of weight
Hmm.
because it's such a methodical plan that she followed. And I just think it sent a really good message to people because like a lot of people are they don't know how to include junk in their diet now. Like, they've been
Yeah.
told, they've been kind of convinced that okay, I can have a little bit of junk in my diet, but they don't know how. So this was just one kind of heavy-handed experiment to show you that you can have a whole freaking Snickers bar every single day and still get into pro card winning shape. So
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. And I mean, it's interesting. I think we're in interesting times in our
yeah,
industry, because I think there's a big segment. It seems to be the younger crowd who's
yeah,
all over this, if it fits your macros type
yeah.
thing, flexible dieting. Like, I follow a lot of these young guys, their YouTube channels and Instagram and all their social media profiles, and all you see is like Sour Patch Kids, Pop
That's
Tarts,
shit. Yeah,
Monster drinks, and it's like it's all you see. So it's like the younger crowd kind of gets that you can be very flexible. I think they take it to the extreme, but I think
Yeah.
it's our demographic, the men and
Yeah.
women over 40, maybe over 35, who still feel that, man, you have to be perfect when you're cutting. So as much as I thought, like you thought, oh, here we go again, another one of
Yeah.
these studies, the message still has to get out there because a lot of people still have this a negative association with these treat foods, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So it does. It shines a lot of light on there. I found it interesting that, and I know again it was all to prove a point, but when the whole thing was, it was the flexible dieting lifestyle, whatever is the purpose
Yeah.
of her article, and you're eating the same freaking treat every single day. Yeah, Snickers bar would get pretty boring, and it's funny because that was the first thing that popped into my head, and it just goes to show how really well written this article was, is because each little doubt or each little criticism I'd have about the article as I was reading it, she covered down below. It's like, yeah, the Snickers bar, it was getting pretty boring, and I don't encourage that. She was doing it to prove a point. And I found it very interesting towards the end of her article where she talked about how as she was getting closer to the end of her cut, and like she dropped her calories a little bit lower. I think she started between 1,500 and 1,600 calories at the beginning of her cut, and then the last few weeks she was dropping. It was under 1,300, maybe 1,250 or 1,260. It might have been 1,280, but below 1,300 calories. And when I think it was about 20% of her calories were coming from that Snickers bar, and she found that she was starting to feel more lethargic and wasn't as energized. So even though she's having that treat, and the whole purpose kind of was to, I mean, curb her cravings. I think having a treat every day is a great way, I think, for some people to curb their cravings. But at the same time, if you're consuming that few calories, and you're sacrificing more nutrient-rich foods for these these calorie-dense foods, you're really making a big trade-off. And it kind of was interesting. I think Snickers satisfies you is one of their slogan. And here she was towards the end of the contest, and it wasn't satisfying. Maybe it was satisfying her sweet tooth, but energy-wise, she would have been better off eating more nutrient-rich foods that she could add a lot more volume, like throwing in more veggies into her meals, or protein could have been a lot more satisfying for her at that point.
Yeah, and one thing you mentioned, how the younger crowd's like really into this, like, they're really into flexible dieting, and they see an old bro like me who's like packing a lunch, and they're like, "Oh man, you're a clean eater, man. You should do flexible diet. Look at my lifestyle, man." And it's just funny, like there's nothing that flexible about like weighing every gram every day and like keeping a spreadsheet. I mean, like that's that there's a lot of labor involved in that too. So it's kind of like at the end of the day, you kind of pick your poison. So
yeah.
So I always kind of get a kick out of that when someone's like, they got food tracking apps on their iPad and on their phone and on their desktop, or they carry a notebook and they're bringing a scale to a restaurant. I'm flexible dieting. It's like, homie, that ain't flexible.
Right. But, exactly. Yeah. Even like, even looking at her, she counts macros as one of her big things, and seeing how she, on exercise days, she bumps up her carbs and reduces her fat. On non-training days, she reduces the carbs, ups her fat, and she was within like 5 grams of each of her macros throughout the whole 10-week prep. To me, I find counting macros a lot more tedious than just aiming for a caloric target. I give myself a lot more freedom and flexibility with the macros. Like I have ballpark, like I have my caloric target, then I set my protein target, and the rest kind of falls as it may.
Yeah, that's how I do it with guys too. Is just set the calories, set the protein. I often kind of overshoot their protein a little bit, and then I say, however we get there with carbs and fat. I mean, it might matter more eventually, but the average dude that I work with, I mean, for now, let's just get the calories and the protein, and the rest of the shit kind of falls into place.
It really does. And to be honest myself, I don't notice all that much of a difference. And hearing her talk about how, like, the night before she's planning her meals, trying to get it to fit into the macros, that's a lot more work, in my opinion. Some people think counting macros is easier than counting calories. I don't get
yeah.
that. I completely don't understand that. You're tracking more things and trying to juggle different foods to fit into exact I find that a bit more
No, it's really easy
tedious.
if you only eat shit that's like in barcodes, like a bag of
True
Twizzlers,
that.
man. It's like, oh, this is 18 grams of carbs, and but for like actual natural foods where you have to,
Yeah.
you got to weigh stuff. It's a little harder,
But
but
again,
yeah,
maybe it comes with experience too. Like we're
yeah,
pretty
yeah,
experienced with eyeballing our portion sizes. Maybe they're a bit more experienced
yeah.
with certain macro things. But I found that interesting. I did. And I think most women would look at her plan and think, "Man, it's
Easy, yeah,
doable. Holy
yeah,
smokes!" I mean, her training. She hit weights 4 times a week,
yeah,
no cardio other than walking 3 evenings a week. Um, that was it. And calorie wise, starting around that, what did
yeah,
I say, 1600 or something like that, and yeah, dropping it down below 1300 towards the end is a challenge. I mean, that it's pretty low calories, but she's smaller too, so she was
yeah,
weighing close. She's under 110 pounds, I believe, at that point.
yeah, yeah.
So I mean, you're smaller. You don't need that many calories, anyways. So really, her plan that was is completely doable. When you throw in a treat in there, I
Yeah.
think it makes a lot of sense. So I think stuff like this is great in that sense. I
Yeah.
think
Hmm.
the overall picture that she painted, the workouts that she was doing, the
Hmm.
lack of cardio that she was including in there, and her
Yeah.
nutrition was
Yeah.
pretty solid.
Yeah. It was really well done, and what I liked about it again is that sometimes fitness people, and I know this, I guess because I am one, because sometimes they write for other fitness people. It's kind of like you're trying to impress your colleagues. Whereas this is one of the few things that I've read where it was meant to be disseminated to the mainstream and actually help people, as opposed to showing your friends like how smart you are.
Right.
So I thought it was. We're gonna have a link to it.
Yes.
Scott's
Yeah.
gonna put a link to it on
Definitely.
this.
I'll link down to that. I'll link
Yeah,
down to the Twinkie guy and the
we're
McDonald's
gonna,
guy, just to give all these different
we're
examples.
gonna
But
man, we're gonna
any
have links.
links galore. But yeah, like my I guess qualm with all this is that, man,
Qualm.
qualm.
It's my qualm. What's your qualms, dude? What's your qualm? Hit the quad. Hit the quad.
I just would like to see a lot. It's our new dance. We gotta. That'll be a segment. It'll be like one of the late night shows where a little woo. What's our qualm for the day? No, I think we need to paint a more realistic overall picture. Like the whole thing, I was thinking, man, like if I was at the Halloween party I was at over the weekend, and they had this big spread there, and I'm ready to. It's my refeed day. I'm ready to treat myself, and I just sorry guys, I can't have any of that stuff. Pull out my Snickers bar instead. Like, it's kind of silly when you think about it all. I think we
Yeah.
just need to paint a better picture of overall a normal lifestyle. I think that's what I've been doing personally for the past 5 years. When I started my big transformation at 35, giving
Yeah.
myself ripped abs for 36. My big mission there was to prove that you could get ripped abs. I dropped about 40 pounds of fat during that cut, eating the foods that you enjoy without any secrets, without any tricks, without avoiding these forbidden foods or eating these
Yeah.
best foods. I ate like a normal person, just
Yeah.
managed my portion sizes, the caloric content. The calories is king, basically.
Yeah.
Basically, what Sohee's saying here, what a lot of these other studies are saying. I had my caloric target. I did treats when I wanted. Like right now, Halloween, we got a little bit of leftover chocolate from the kids, so the mini chocolate bars are working great for me. I'm plugging it into my calories. Like this weekend, I may be out with friends, and it might be a different kind of treat. I kind of roll with the punches, a normal kind of lifestyle. I think
Yeah.
we need to see a lot more of that. I think things like MyFitnessPal are helpful, like these kind of things,
Yeah.
apps where you can follow someone else, follow one of your favorite fitness gurus or whatever, and see exactly what they're eating all the time. And as long as the people aren't putting out a fake impression of what they're doing,
Yeah.
like actually logging what they're eating on a daily basis. I think that kind of stuff. It's what I'm doing with my videos right now. Is I'm on an 8-week cut, and I'm sharing exactly what I'm eating each and every day. It involved a little bit of alcohol, 2 drinks on Saturday night. It's going to be different things here and there, but
Yeah.
it's a normal it's a normal lifestyle. I think it's very real, and it's not so set in structure. And my whole thing a couple weeks ago, right before this cut, when I laid out my plan, it was to hit. I want 90 to 95% of my nutrition to come from like nutrient rich quality whole foods, and then the 5 to 10% can come from the processed treats like a Snickers bar or whatever the heck. So having that set calories rather than one set treat, I think is a better approach to take. So right now I know I'm allowed 1 to 200 calories a day of a treat, or I can, like, there's some days where I just don't want it. Like, there on that, like, I guarantee during that cut there would have been days like, my God, do I really have to eat another Snickers bar right now? Like, there's days where I just don't want treats. So I'd carry that over to another day. So I basically give myself throughout the week 700 to 1400 calories that I could consume from processed treats like that. So I like having a caloric target to aim for as a general broad picture, and that segment, that caloric target of processed treats that I could have in there as well.
Yeah, I mean, clients, like, I often get asked, especially when I'm introducing people to logging macros and stuff, because I follow them on MyFitnessPal. Like, if they're new to it, they always say, like, fuck, do I got to do this for the rest of my life? And my answer is always like, no. Like, eventually this will become intuitive, and you could probably get 70 to 80% accuracy just by eyeballing it, and that kind of calms them down a little bit. And then I say, like, I don't track anything ever unless I'm trying to, what I call, move the needle. If I'm trying to get bigger, I track everything. If I'm trying to get smaller, I track everything. But if I'm just like doing what I do, I have a pretty good idea. I'm probably plus or minus 20% from from what I think I should be eating, and that just is just a product of doing this long enough. So, like, eventually these crutches, these electronic crutches that people are using, while they're wonderful, like, eventually you won't really need them. But they are super helpful when you're trying to establish a baseline and when you're trying to progress in either direction. So
yeah. And I think what's really helpful for me is that I do tend to eat a lot of the same meals, a lot of the same foods, because I enjoy them. I absolutely love the meals that I have. Like, first 3 meals of the day are basically the exact same for me, and I know by that point I'm at half my calories. Everything, like, half my target for my macros for the day. So I got room to play around with for the rest of the day. I get my variety from my dinner, but at least I know kind of halfway through the day where I'm at. And
people get too way caught up on variety, man. Like, you don't need, variety is wonderful, blah blah blah, but you don't need every meal to be different, man. Like, it's not. Man, that's the way. I don't know anyone who's. Well, I'm sure they're out there, but I don't know anyone who's gotten into fantastic shape who wasn't basically eating the same things every day, especially towards the end.
Yeah.
Because you're building momentum, and it's just less shit in your head that you have to consider. When you have everything mapped out, it's just easier to lock down and focus.
Yeah.
So.
Without a doubt. And that was my downfall the first weekend in this cut, is that I usually give myself way too much flexibility on the weekends. I'm just no plan. Like, during the week, I'm solid. I have my plan in place. The first 3 meals are the same. So I think that too much flexibility was causing me to go off. It was too easy for me to go off the rails there. Where, like, this weekend, I was solid, dude. Like, I like, you know what? I'm gonna keep those first 3 meals that I normally have throughout the week. I'm gonna keep that the same, and then I just kind of followed the same plan throughout the weekend, and it made a tremendous difference for me. Did
you factor in whiskey, or?
Without a doubt, dude, I factored in.
Without a doubt, man.
That was my refeed day. I factored it, two glasses of rye.
What do you mean glasses? Like, that's a very like, there's glasses and there's like
2 big mugs. No. That's two small mixed drinks there.
Okay. Oh, that's
factored that in there with my tree. I behaved myself, dude. I behaved myself, and
that's breakfast. That's a pre-workout.
Milk is for babies. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So, I mean, again, we'll link down to her article and other stuff. It's flexible dieting. I mean, it is what it is, and just don't go crazy with it. It doesn't mean go balls out. And
Well, it's just one way to do things that's very, very effective. I encourage people to read this article and kind of get inspired.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, when you get cut leading here, again, you say you even then you don't always track your calories and stuff. Were you flexible? Like, did you include some treats in there, um, or
I know that's that way. That was an old school kind of '80s way that I did it. I set a baseline diet about 8 or 12 weeks out, and then I just gradually made my meals smaller.
yep,
And then I'd go 2 weeks, I'd make a meal smaller, and then I'd drop a meal, and then I just by the time I was getting ready to come out to see you, I was eating like broccoli and piss. Basically, it was next to nothing on my diet, but. That's just very that for me that worked because it's just less for me to think about because I
right?
was working lots and training twice a day and so I just these are my meals. I prepared them and they just got gradually smaller. I don't think I weighed anything. I would weigh stuff occasionally just if I thought my eyes were starting to eat in front of my brain, like.
Yeah,
But yeah, man, I mean that's and it worked. Could have worked
yeah.
better, but there's lots of different ways to do this.
Yeah, yeah, without a doubt. I'm the same way, man. I do find that some people would consider it bland and boring, but I mean, the less I have to think about things and the more
Yeah,
structured I am, the more I keep things the same, the easier it is for me to stick
yeah.
with. And most of the time it's meals that I enjoy. I mean, you had some great tips that one treat that you made up when you're hungry. I don't know, berries. Is it berries and
Oh, yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah. So we got our own little tricks to kind of stay
yeah,
satisfy our sweet tooth while we're
yeah.
cutting down. And I love all the healthy meals that I eat. I find them very tasty, enjoyable. I look forward to them. I crave them for the most part, and I find that that's good enough. When you find good healthy meals that you enjoy, oftentimes you don't need to include a lot of this the treats and junk food into your diet because you're always kind of satisfied and you're getting the nutrients
Yeah.
that your body's craving from these healthier foods too, the
Yeah.
nutrient rich foods. So oftentimes when you're craving something, it's a sign that you might be depleted or deficient in
Yeah.
certain things. So eat more nutrient rich foods, and I find oftentimes it kind of subsides some of the cravings that you have.
Yeah, and I do think that one of the downfalls of the flexible dieting movement is when you start to include a lot of hyper palatable foods. I really think, especially when you're hungry, I think it can cause a lot of triggers
Yep.
for binges and stuff like that. So since there's no like need to include these very hyper palatable foods, like whether it's like pastries or box cereals or what have you, since there's no need to include them, I think it's kind of best to not, unless you're really freaking craving that. I think it's best to just leave it alone.
Exactly.
You know, yeah,
Exactly, and that's kind of well, that's part of what I was talking
yeah,
about earlier. With and
yeah,
there's days where I wouldn't want a Snickers bar or a treat,
yeah,
so I'm not going to have it. I'm not going to force myself to have a treat if I don't want it because it may spark
yeah,
something in me that wants
yeah,
something more. I think we're all different. You really have to know yourself. I
yeah.
I, I
Mhm.
come from the school of being the calorie cycling, carb cycling, the
Uh-huh.
refeed days, so going 3 days in a row without any treats and then having a treat on the fourth day. That's always worked really, really well for me. My wife is someone who has always naturally enjoyed the small treat every day. She would thrive off of what Sohee posted there.
Yeah.
It's basically what she did. When we back in 2012 when we prepped for a photo shoot, she had it was her diet plan was called the dessert diet, where she had a
Yeah.
dessert every single day, um, and kind of based off they were actually at the time she was documenting that diet. There
Yeah.
was a study put out there that showed um, people who had a 300 calorie treat with their breakfast every single day, they lost the same amount of weight as the other group. They had it set calories. I don't know, 1,600 calories for men
Yeah.
and maybe 1,200, 1,300 for women. But set calories. One group was allowed a 300 calorie treat every single day. They
Uh-huh.
both lost. Both groups lost about the same amount of same amount of weight after the time
Uh-huh.
period. And then 6 months later, the group who was eating the dessert every day continued to lose more weight. So they were still progressing while the other group regained all their weight back. So there's a
Okay.
lot of psychological benefits to including a treat every single day, or maybe not every single day. It would have been interesting to see if it was spread out
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a few times out of the week or whatever. But the people, they just didn't feel deprived. They felt like it was something that it could stick with, adhere to. And we know it. Compliance is the key. So finding a plan that suits your personality and your lifestyle, that's the number one goal there for
Yeah.
sure. Whether it's what degree of flexible dieting, whatever it is.
Uh-huh.
Just go with what works for you. And if what works for you is being more strict and more, even really more compliant, then go for that.
Absolutely.
All right, man.
Think we nailed it.
I think we nailed it. It was great. Sohee, great article
Yeah.
if you're watching this. And yeah, I hope everybody appreciated our insights on this. Again, links below. If you like these conversations, give us a like there, a thumbs up on Facebook, a like on YouTube. Rate us, review us, all of iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud.
Rate us high, man. Rate us fucking high. Just boom. Yeah.
All right, guys. We'll catch you next time.